Good morning, folks. In this video I will be covering draw on liquidity. So this is basically my outlook for the week ahead, or at least for the sessions to come in this week, the second week of August 2023. Starting off with a weekly chart. The past couple weeks or months, in the last month, I was anticipating and expecting price to trade into this buy side imbalance, this fair value gap on a weekly perspective on the dollar index. So I really wanted to see price come into this, and of course the ones on the daily and this order block from this week's high to this week's low. I wanted to see price trade into this area before we can see any sort of up move. The problem is we did not trade into that level, and then I decided to change bias. Not exactly change bias, but I wanted to see how we treated this week's candle, because this week was a very bearish week, and I wanted to see if we can trade and close above this week, this candle right here. It's bearish candle. But last week we traded above it, but we didn't trade and close above it. We closed below it, but we closed inside of this CB, inside of this fair value gap from this level to this level. The 50% is at that point, the consequent encroachment, and you can see we closed above the consequent encroachment of this sell side imbalance. So now going into the new week, I believe that we may actually now be bullish on the dollar. I believe we may be seeking for this buy side next, but that all depends on how we trade in the next 2 days of the market. So the first area that I want to point out is the last week's week, this long week right here. I wanted to point out the consequent encroachment of it, which we can see. This is the 0%, 25%, 25%, or 75% and 25%, whichever, but this is the quarter marks, and then this is the halfway mark, the cyan color, then this is the 62% mark. So we can see that the 50% mark is the 102.426 level, which I will delineate now and label that as a consequent encroachment. Once it has been delineated, I can then remove my Fibonacci because it was just used for measurement. So I want to see how we reject or how we treat this level, which we will see how critical it is going on a lower time frame for me, which in this case is a daily chart. So again, we can see that last week we treated this CB, sell side imbalance, as some sort of support, as some sort of resistance to push price lower, but I want to only see this rejection as temporal. When I say temporal, I mean I don't want to see this being supported for future prices. So looking at this imbalance, we may see a little bit of a rally lower, of a push lower, but my line on the sand, my last line of defense, are basically these two down close candles on a daily chart. The moment we trade below this candle, I believe that we are now officially back in a bearish profile, back in a selling market, and look to sell to this sell side liquidity and the imbalances and order block that I mentioned at the start of this recording. So seeing the levels outlined as clear as they are now, let's move down to the 4-hour chart. We are currently trading into this fair value gap. Noting this, the high of this candle and the low of this candle, we have a buy side imbalance sitting in between that, and that's where the displacement happened. And we have these two candles, which to me collectively would be labeled as an order block, a bearish order block to support lower prices. So I want to see price actually use this level, this area, as some level of support and some level of resistance to push price lower. Because if I am bullish, I would like to see if we can tag this area of inefficiency. Yes, I know this would be a deep retracement if price was ever to come back into this area, but if we can sweep this sell side on a Tuesday, I believe that would officially be the low of the week, or on a Wednesday, then we may create the low of the week and retrace or push back higher. So I'm paying careful attention to these levels. Moving on to I will obviously update my daily bias and my weekly bias on every video that I make now, or almost every video I make now. So moving on to the euro, we have the euro USD. Doing the converse of that, we have this sell side imbalance, which now should be labeled as an inverse fair value gap, like so, but we should not forget the fact that these two candles here exist before a push higher, which can act as an order block. But I personally prefer the wick to body of the last down close candle before a rally higher. The only difference here in this instance is that I may not take this candle and rather take this higher one, because this was the one specific candle on a 4-hour chart that was purged by this bullish candle. So I personally would take this one as the bullish order block, which obviously collides with the next one. So we would have something like so on this level. So I would like to see if price can be supported on this inverse fair value gap, which may become a breakaway gap, or on this other block to see higher prices. If we'll be going higher, we have these relative equal highs sitting just over here. It was 1 and 2, and now we have a third one that may be purged to trade into this sell side imbalance. This sell side imbalance sitting over there, which is enough. It's just another fair value gap. So this is what I'm looking for this week, or at least the next few sessions on Euro USD. Similar structure on the pound, with the difference being that the pound is drastically weaker than the euro, and the targets of course here may not be as high as these, even though we may get there to that same CB. The first closest target should be these highs sitting just here, and where we are currently trading in an order block on the pound. So we will see how price reacts from this. I of course will not be trying to catch the bottom of the move. For me to trade this, I would have to go down to our trading time frame, which is the 5 minutes, wait for a displacement for confirmation, then we can trade from there. While we're here, I just wanted to point out the fact that we are sitting well below the 130 true opening price for the session and the midnight opening price. So right now we are in a discount for the day and for the session. So this is our midnight price, and we are below both of them. So this would not be unrealistic to long right now, to buy right now. Moving on to SPX 500. I want to see the same sort of structure. We had an immediate rebalance on a lower time frame in this level, and IO Fed, a quick rejection from this CB, this sell side imbalance. So I would like to see lower prices the same way that I want to see higher prices on the dollar. I would like to see lower prices on the indices. The first target being 100% completion of this buy side imbalance. So I would like to see price possibly trade higher to the consequent encroachment of this week, and then cover this. Of course, if we're gonna trade below that, then we'll just aim for the lower imbalance sitting just here. And then the sell side liquidity. I will also cover seasonal tendencies and everything that entails to finding directional bias, but I don't want to make each video too long, so I'll just cover session by session and as it comes. For now, that should be all, and that's my bias for the week, for the day, for the session. Good luck and good trading.